Okay, here's our precious metals update. We'll start with gold. We'll start on the daily chart. As always, take a look at the links in the description for the previous videos to get some sort of context. And again, if you're not familiar with cycles analysis, there's always that cycles 101 video in there and some content on the blog as well. And if you haven't subscribed, please do like, you know, turn your notifications on so you're sure that you get those as I post these. And also, just know that I do post more real time on Twitter, so follow me there if you want more updates. We'll start with the daily chart for gold, and we've talked about this, that this is just not looking very healthy, and the way Friday turned out, I mean, no one can kind of deny this is a pretty ugly candle, right? It did make a higher high, right? So a new high for day 6 of the daily cycle, but not super. I mean, nothing to get super excited about. We'll see how Monday turns out, obviously. And if you think about the way the week turned out, this is actually just an in. This was that was actually just an inside week, week 7. And again, so this is where it gets kind of squirrely, right? Was this actually your weekly cycle low? And it was just, it didn't actually make a lower low than this one. We'll have to see, obviously, but we know structurally we're beneath this swing high as long as we're beneath 1771, and so that becomes a potential magnet to the upside, right? Like, you know, if nothing else, if we do continue to rally, in this daily cycle, as you would imagine, if other risk assets rally, we'd probably get to that 1771 level, maybe have some trouble there. So at least that gives a sense for, profit target. And again, if you look at the monthly, we're like, we've made a lower low, but really just kind of consolidating on the lower end of the range, which, kind of by definition is a bear flag. Does not look great. It is month 81 of that longer term cycle. The top was on month 56, which was August 20. We've talked about that many times. So that's the picture for gold. If we go over to silver, looking much healthier. I mean, look at this thing, how this thing is vertical, whereas gold is just kind of crawling along the mat. Also day 6 for silver, also making a higher high, but, of a much different variety. And so we're already up about 7.6% for silver. If we look at the move from the last low, we went up about 15%. Even this kind of little bearish one here went up about 10%. So that gives you, let's see, this little bearish thing. Let's even see from this low, went up 8.8%, but from this little level, about 9%. So either way, we were we're not I wouldn't we're not super early in the daily cycle, but you would think we still have some upside here, and you could see clear levels. We got to get above that level, right? You had this little rally that got stamped out, so that's going to be important. And then obviously, if and when we can get above this high here, which was the high from the last daily cycle, that's a huge signal. That tells you that is literally price action making higher highs, right? That's your definition of reversing the downtrend, starting an uptrend. That's what we would want to see. And the weekly candle did not quite get to the higher high. And so that was week 8. We did make a lower low. And so, again, this is where it gets kind of tough, because it's like, this has the look, this actually did make a lower low, whereas gold didn't. We're going to have to see the price action, right? And again, these clear overhead resistance levels remain. And again, if you think about the way gold looked on that weekly chart, or on that monthly chart, a tiny little doji candle hanging on the end, this thing looks like it's going to scream to the other side. I keep talking about this pattern. It's incredibly important. The outside candle, in this case, this is moving to the bullish end of things. I mean, look at this. We made a lower low, and now that would be a move to 2089. We could still find ourselves making a move there and then reversing lower, and then we go make that lower low. I suspect that seems like the more likely scenario given where gold is probably in its longer term cycle, at month 81, seeking out a low most likely. I mean, you see, look at this droop, right? This kind of thing can't last. We talked about this, right? And so this is another lower high, most like at the very least. If we can break through this, I mean, my God, that means there's maybe a lot more upside there, and that would be great. No one's going to argue with you there. We still have this kind of ceiling at 30. So that means we're talking more than 50% upside, right? And so even after we kind of break, or close to 50% upside, even after we break through this wall. So you don't have to be in any rush by any means if one doesn't have a position. And if we finally close it out with GDX, and actually we'll look at the dollar, same pattern. This is the monthly chart on GDX. So for GDX, that's a move to 27.64, would be a bullish outside monthly candle. That's what we're on pace for if the price action continues to unfold. In the case of GDX on the weekly, did we just about get there? 25.15? No, we did not. We didn't. Oh, actually, we did get there. Yeah. So we got right to that level. We didn't get above it. So we didn't make a higher high. You could, if you wanted to take the most bearish interpretation, you could say it was a double top. But I mean, this is a very bullish candle. Of course, we'll want to see follow through next week. We may see some consolidation first few days, just in terms of, just digesting the move kind of. But this is definitely promising, especially after this precipitous decline. That said, we've had other promising candles and moves. I mean, this was a very promising candle for sure. And then look what happened the next week, and then the week after that, and then the whammy. So we'll have to watch this, of course. And on the daily level, day 5 actually, as opposed to day 6 for gold and silver. And just looking at what the rally has been so far, 9.4%. So actually a pretty strong rally already. The last rally that topped out on day 12 was actually only 12.8%. So we've already rallied quite a bit. And we also have now a gap that will most likely be filled. These things tend to get filled. I suspect it will get filled. So that'll definitely be, and you just kind of watch the level around, like that becomes kind of an orbit. Because we're going to at some point turn back, even if we keep running. This gives you kind of an area, kind of target on the downside. So that is where that stands. We'll just jump over to Dixie. And I talked about this, tweeted about this. So Friday was day 21. This is now almost certainly your daily cycle high, right? Because it's day 19, so pretty deep in the daily cycle already. We have a swing high because we went below the low from this candle that marks the high. We didn't quite get, we didn't get the downside follow through. Well, we have downside follow through, but we did end up with a little rally, which is why we have this lower wick here. So we'll have to see how that develops. And on the weekly, again, that's why you end up with this kind of doji-like thing. That's important to notice. So that was so this is week 14, and that's important. Every weekly cycle high is also a daily cycle high, right? And so you always want to watch for that daily cycle high that might turn into the weekly cycle high. And that's what we're watching for here, is this daily cycle high for sure. We know for sure that is a daily cycle high because it's day 19. It's very deep in the daily cycle. We have a swing high. So now it's a question of, is that going to cascade and create this week 14 swing high? Weekly swing, weekly cycle high, right? And so that you need a swing high to have a weekly cycle swing high, and we don't quite have that. We need to go below the low. We needed to go below the low of this candle here at 108.36, and we just kind of stayed right above it. Like we actually wait. Yeah, I think we got right to the edge. Now, because we have this wick built up here, we're most likely going to open as an inside week next week on Monday. And so we're going to have to see, does this now kind of droop lower and then increase the odds? And you would think that we're going to continue to see downside pressure because we are having the daily cycle decline right now. So we'll have to see that. But it gives us very clear things to watch. And of course, you have implications for that monthly candle. It is month 20 of that 3-year cycle, 36 months. And so whenever we see the top for that, that's going to be an epic trade. Look how stretched we are above the 10-month moving average. I mean, you see a 10-month moving average moving so much higher. Like, and so at some point, we're going to get that monthly, that high for that 3-year cycle, and then we're going to start to move lower. And that's going to be a great trade, whether it's puts on UUP or, we'll see what other correlative assets charts start to wake up as a result of that. But that's the move we're going to really watch for in terms of the dollar.